Hi, everyone. We're back with another episode of The Unknown Pro, and today I have my favorite Canadian, Sara Groenewegen. Hi, Sarah.
Hey guys, thanks for having me,
Of
Sam.
course. I'm so excited to talk to you today. I have like a whole range. So far, for everybody I've talked to, it's been kind of not limited, but a few topics, but I have just such a wide range of stuff I want to talk to you about. So if you're ready, I would love to dig in.
I'm
Um,
excited. Here we
Good.
go.
But first, obviously, I need to read off this amazing bio about you. You graduated from Minnesota in 2017, and where you were a three-time All-American, which is pretty cool. You've been on Team Canada since 2013. You played with Akron in 2017, which was a highlight of my life because that's when and you're currently with the Canadian Wild, who's in the MPF, and you have a gold and silver medal from Pan American Games. You have a bronze medal from the World Championship, but had you not gotten sick, you'd have two bronze medals, which we'll obviously dig right into. And you are the career record holder in strikeouts at Minnesota with 1,214. So that's, if we would have played against each other in college, I would have contributed to your record. So I'm sorry that I'm older than you.
Dang.
I know, what a bummer. So I guess first thing, I want to know what Team Canada has been like for you, because obviously I don't know any sort of experience about that. I've only played against you in that realm. So
hmm
what has your experience been like growing up? Was that your goal, and then making it and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think growing up, it was kind of well known for me because, as you know, we have the Canada Cup tournament,
Yeah.
and I live like 5 minutes down the road from Softball City. So growing up, like I knew that it was a thing. I feel like that's a big thing for a lot of Softball Canada athletes is they just like don't know, they don't have the visibility like that it is a thing.
Uh-huh.
Because it hasn't historically been a huge Olympic sport, as you know, so it's not really well known that we have a national team program. So I think for me, like I knew that it could be a thing because growing up, like I watched these teams play. I'm sure I watched you play like one year that I was before I got to college kind of thing. So, I mean, I knew it was an option, but I never really had it as a goal per se. Like growing up, I wasn't the best player. I didn't really um, get too competitive until probably like my freshman year in high school. So I didn't really like set that as my goal. But then growing up, I actually played with a few players who played on the national team when they were in high school. So there's like Jocelyn Cater, Larissa got pulled up when she was pretty young. So like to play at Canada Cup. So I was like, you know what, that's pretty cool. Like to be able to play on home soil, like for your country would be pretty cool. So I think that's kind of what got the ball rolling with that idea. And then I actually got pulled up from the junior team the first year. So I actually got cut from the junior team in 2011. So that was like my first kind of experience with Team Canada. And then, I mean, some say it's controversial, some probably not, but that year I was super young, so I didn't make the team for that reason, didn't have a lot of experience. But I think that was kind of like a turning point in my career, honestly, because I got cut and I was like, no, I want to do this. Like, I'm going
Yeah.
to come back next time and be like, let's go. So then 2013 made the junior team. I was a senior in high school. So it was the summer of my senior year. And that year, I think they just needed help and they were like, hey, because that year the junior cycle was only one tournament. So we were only together for like 2 weeks. It was really short. Canada doesn't have a lot of funding for our national team. So we can't just like play in all these tournaments as a junior team. So that year they were just like, you want to come to the senior team? I was like, yeah. So I was still playing travel ball. So it's
Mhm.
like for us it's club because we don't have high school softball. So we have
Okay.
like national championships with our club teams, I guess, and all that. It's pretty similar, but it's just like a league with the club team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I I regret this a little bit. I was on the national team, the senior national team, as someone in grade 12, senior in high school, and I was like, hey, Coach Smith, like, can I go to my national championship instead of play in the Puerto Rico tournament Pan Am qualifier. Like at this point, I don't know what that is. And
Right.
like, I still kind of get kind of crapped on for that decision, because who would turn down playing in Puerto Rico?
Right.
Was such a cool tournament experience. Like, but me, I was like, no, I want to win a national championship, because my team, we were like historically pretty good. We had already won 3 national championships. So I was like, let's do it again, kind of thing. I'm so competitive. So I'm like, no, I want to go out like on top. We lost in the final.
Oh no.
I know. And I was like, come on, like so that wasn't worth it, not gonna lie. So I went from that to now, I think it's 7 or 8 years later, and my role on the team is completely different. I mean, that year I was kind of just, I got thrown out there when we were losing pretty bad, or, you know, a big game to get some experience, but like only a few innings. And then 2014 rolled around, same kind of thing. I didn't really have a huge role. I was still young, and it was my coming off my freshman year of college. So I had some success in college that year, but I was still young, still not a lot of international experience, which, you know, it's a completely different game. So I went into that year not really having a huge role at least. And then 2015 rolls around, and that's kind of when I made a surge, I guess you can say, in my experience. We went to the Pan Am Games and we won. We played USA. I think that's the first gold medal that Softball Canada has had in 32 years, something like that. So, and I was a sophomore in college playing Team USA's Olympic team. Like it was just pretty cool experience. And I think something that I can, you know, address is I went into that year just super fearless. Age is just a number mentality. You know, not caring who the opponent was, and just doing my best. So I think that kind of played a huge role in that. And then here we are today. I would like to say that I have kind of a big role. I'm a veteran on the team now, and you know, there's some young people kind of filtering in, and I would like to say that I have helped them kind of be welcome to the team. Our team chemistry is better than ever. I mean, we're working really hard right now. Obviously, with the Olympics postponed, it's not the best feeling, but I think we're doing well as sticking together as a team and kind of just hanging in there and doing our best.
That's so cool. I think just from what you've just been saying is that once you started to know more, everything started to grow together. So you as a player grew, you know, your passion for, you know, your country and playing for your country kind of grew. So I think that that's really cool that it all kind of happened together, if you will.
Totally. Yeah, it wasn't, exactly. You said it right.
I think that that's awesome, because, you know, you look at things like, that's why I asked the question, is because when I was a kid, I saw Team USA, boom, done. That's my dream, you know, and it doesn't always work out that way. That's not always what, it's not, this is the one thing, you know, you sometimes have to find it. You might not even know what your next big dream is until you discover it. Right. So
totally.
that's cool. And I mean, do you feel like you're a part of something right now in trying to grow that in Canada, and make it possible for younger girls to know about it sooner than you did?
Totally. I think visibility is huge. When I first started, like the Olympics wasn't even in the picture. Like obviously we had the vote in 2016. So like I remember our first, like 2013, 2014, we'd play at the World Cup in Oklahoma, and we would write out like 2020 in softballs with like Team Japan, Team Australia, take a picture with them and be like, softball, like back softball 2020, I think it was.
I remember that.
So just like having experiences like that, it opens your eyes. And then, you know, obviously with the Olympics now, it's in the picture, so it's like, okay, let's do something about it while it is in the Olympics. Unfortunately, it might not be the next round, but you know, we have to do what we can right now. And I think it's super important to involve the whole country. Like it's such a community-based sport, and I think just involving as many people as you can is super important. And then that gets everyone on board, right? You might not play softball, but you enjoy watching it, you enjoy going to see it. I mean, the World Series is a great example of that. Like it's it's such a big deal for people who don't even play softball. They love watching it because it's so exciting. So I think it's visibility is huge, and just getting everyone on board and on the same page. So yeah.
Yeah, and especially with the Olympics, even like you just said, like you don't even have to be involved or play or anything. Is it comes down to like you want your country to be the best country, you know, you want to win. So, you know, if you can tie everything in there together and get people to know about it, to see it, it'll almost be automatic. Like, yeah, that's my Canada team. I love them. I want them to win. So
Totally. Because growing up, like, I watched the Olympics. Everyone, I would hope, watches the Olympics.
right.
And like, I loved watching like swimmers and skiers and snowboarders. Like, I have nothing to do with that sport, but like you said, they're your country, and it's like so cool to watch someone achieve like their lifetime goals. So, you know, we're just trying to get people on board for that, for softball.
Yeah. Gosh, it's so true. And I think it's come a long way from obviously 2008 to now. But you know, even just simply stuff like your Team Canada and I'm obviously Team USA, but everybody working together for the sport of softball just in general, it is huge. Everybody just being together. So on kind of that note, what went into the decision for you to go to college in the States?
Yeah, I actually get asked that quite often, and I don't have like one specific thing because I'm from Canada, right? Like, it's not very common to do that. And like I said before, I wasn't the best player. I probably didn't have enough talent to go until I was at least a sophomore in high school. Like, I wanted to. I remember my first experience was I think I was in grade 8. We call it in Canada. I don't know what you call it in the States, but I got my like first letter from Washington, because Washington is obviously pretty close to BC. They do in the past they did a lot of recruiting at Canada Cup. So, and obviously, you know, it's about networking, who you know. I'm sure Coach Tar had connections from when she recruited Danielle, you know, it was all of that. So I got a letter inviting me, like the recruit, I don't even think they do this anymore, but it was like the recruiting profile that I had to like do my name, my phone, like all that stuff. Sent it back in the mail, and it was like an invite to their camp. And I was like, okay, like super young, super raw, like didn't really know what I was doing, wasn't the best pitcher. At this time I was playing shortstop, like I wasn't even a competitive pitcher until my sophomore year. So it just like at that point I was like, let's just see what it is. Like, I don't even know. Like, they had just won a national championship, and I didn't know that. Right? So it was just like pretty crazy looking back and thinking like I didn't know anything, like so naive. But as a Canadian, you don't grow up watching college softball. You don't know these experiences. So my older sister actually, she's 4 years older than me. So I think that year she was going to Southern Idaho. It's a junior college. And so that's kind of what my idea of college softball was at the time. I knew that she was going to a junior college. I didn't really know what to compare that to, because we have like community college, but like I said, sports aren't that huge in Canada. I mean, we have one NCAA team. They're Div 2. It's SFU, and it's local to us. It's Burnaby, BC. So it's like 40 minutes away from where I'm at. But again, you just like really have no idea like what Division 2 is, what's Division 1. Like, it's all just college softball. So for me, I was like, oh, let's try to go to Southern Idaho. Like, weird. Anyways, went to this camp at Washington, and at the end, you know, you go to talk and thank the coaches. Your parents kind of push you like, go thank the coach, like thing. And I'm still pretty shy, but I was like really shy and really nervous. And I was like, thanks, Coach Tar. Do you have any advice for me? Like, super soft spoken, like shaky voice. And she was like, you know, we probably can't recruit you unless you play on an American team and we see you against competition. And so I was like, okay, like obviously that's kind of like devastating to hear, but I'm like, no, like I'm gonna do it. Why not? Kind of thing. And at that point, that's kind of when the whole like Team Canada idea came into play too. So I was just like, let's just, why not, kind of thing. I'm super competitive, and I always want to be the best at whatever I'm doing. So if that's what it was going to take, I was like, no, let's figure it out. So I actually ended up playing on an American travel team based out of Seattle,
Okay.
and got recruited by Minnesota with them. So I was actually playing in Seattle. It was a fall tournament, I think, of might have been my junior year at the time.
Mhm.
And behind the backstop, it was Coach Tar, Coach White at Oregon at the time, and then Coach Allister. And I knew that Washington and Oregon, because being from BC, like you kind of hear stories of colleges and stuff. And then I was like, what's that school? Like, what's Minnesota? And like, it's crazy, right? And
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty like knowledgeable at where states are, what they are, because of this whole recruiting process. So like if a school reached out to me, I was like, okay, let's Google where this school is. So I looked where Minnesota was, and I was like, oh, like I've actually never heard of this state before.
Amazing.
Pretty interesting. But yeah, it was all luck of the draw. I was pretty under recruited. I only got one offer, and it was from Minnesota. I got like a few conversations with coaches, but then by the time I was like willing to go on a visit, they were like, we found someone else, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Which is kind of sad, because being a Canadian, you don't know, like if you don't go on a visit, or like you're not willing to just hop on a plane and go, or
Right.
drive 12 hours to see a school, that kind of means you're uninterested. So for me, like trying to figure out like financial, like how am I supposed to get there, kind of thing, it just like it never really worked out to go immediately. So that kind of cut some ties with some schools. But yeah, Minnesota wanted me on campus. I really believed in what they were doing. Coach Allister was, I think, in her second year at the time. The year I was getting recruited, she started 7 freshmen, and I just really saw a future. Like I saw her development. I think at the time they were like maybe 150th in the RPI, like just
Wow.
super down on the bottom. Like,
Yeah.
and I just saw like it's gonna go somewhere. And especially when I went on my visit, I made connections with a few of the girls, and I just like really believed in it, and I bought in. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I felt like just at home on campus, and I didn't like have that feeling like on campus per se, but I just felt like diamond in the rough. Like I never really was given a chance. Just like all of this, the freshman class at the time, they were all diamonds in the rough, got under recruited. So I felt like home with them. Like I felt a part of that community.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's go. And it was the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. I mean, it brought me so many good connections, so many people that I still talk to, still enjoy their company.
Yeah.
Got a great education in sport management with a minor in leadership. Just like, yeah, the best experience. And I have nothing negative to say about that school. I loved it.
That's awesome. And honestly, that's was going to be my next question, was number one, deciding to go to school in the States, but then also Minnesota being the school that you ended up going to. So you obviously answered that
Mm-hmm.
question, but it seems the way that it could be seen is that, well, that was your only option because you were under recruited and Minnesota was going to give you a shot. But it from the listening to you explain it, and even just watching you through your career, what you did, it obviously was the option. Like that was the place that you were supposed to go to. There was a reason that
Totally.
Coach Allister was there sitting next to, the Pac-12 coaches,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a reason that she wanted you as a part of her team, because you not only felt that when you got there, but she saw that in you, I'm sure, as well.
Totally. She does such a great job at taking raw talent, like, and just making players out of it. And so, same with the whole staff that I had, Coach Ritter, Coach Merchant. I mean, they're unbelievable. What they're doing at Stanford now is
Yeah.
crazy. Coach Ritter's still at Minnesota. She made Amber an All-American. I mean, it's just like, it's incredible. And I have nothing but good things to say about them. It's just so cool to be a part of.
That's so awesome. Do you feel
Mhm.
like it helped you become more competitive too? Because for, everybody I feel like knows that there were some times where Minnesota has been slighted. And
Oh, really?
how do you say that nicely? Like,
I don't know.
so there's been times where you may have been counted out because of the school you were at, or the school, like your program has been counted out. Do you feel like
Mhm.
that added to your competitive nature? What do you feel like that kind of did for you as an athlete?
Yeah, I think again, super naive in the beginning, didn't really know like
Right.
how good we could be, but then my freshman year, we beat Michigan. They were number 2 ranked. And like, again, I think that was a common theme we felt, is we never felt respected. Like, we would go to like big schools at the time, like ASU, beat them on their home field, you know, like play these big games, and we would beat them, but the next day it was like, oh, they didn't start the race. Oh, but they did start the race, and just like common themes like that. So the respect was never there. And I feel like from being a diamond in the rough, being under recruited, we all kind of had that mentality, like, oh, we're the underdog anyways. So we had a so what mentality. So you can go into these big stadiums, play these big ranked teams, and a lot of people would probably play with their tail between their legs, and we didn't care who they were. We didn't care what they were ranked in the country. Like, we just saw it as an opportunity to play and to, build our program, get the respect we deserved. So yeah, I think that was, I think that translates completely to my mentality on the mound and who I am with Team Canada too. So I think, I would hope, and it looks like Minnesota is getting respect now. They went to the World Series, which I'm super proud of. Like Amber, I'm so proud of where she's come and, where the program is. But again, I don't think it's fully there. It was their first time even hosting a Supers.
Right.
And, they did so well. So, I mean, I would hope that people see schools from the North or not from the SEC, and I'm sure you feel the same way. Just get a little more respect. Like, it doesn't matter what label is on your chest. Like, anyone, in my opinion, especially now, any team can beat anyone on any given day. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter who's pitching. It's college softball so competitive. So I would hope that across the board, there's going to be a little bit more respect.
Yeah, absolutely. And whether it's the team, whether it's the player, that's always something that I find funny to say is, oh, well, I remember there was this girl my senior year, she hit 30 home. It wasn't Lauren Chamberlain because she hit 30 home runs. But her name was Camila. I don't know her full name. I don't remember, but she played at UTEP, University of Texas, El Paso. Mm-hmm. And she hit 30 or 31 home runs.
That's insane.
That season. And people were saying, well, she only goes to UTEP. I'm like,
it's still a home run.
Put the ball out of the park 30 or 31 times. You're still doing it. So I think that you're such a good advocate for, saying like this, we're good. Let's let us show you that we're good, but also you need to believe that we're good too, and if you don't believe it, we'll show you right now,
Totally. It's a two-way street. And I like that example.
Do you feel like that carries over into Team Canada? Do other girls feel that way? Is that kind of a common theme? Because Canada doesn't have an Olympic medal, right?
No, we've never medaled. I think it translates pretty well to that as well. Like the so what attitude, I call it. We don't talk about it, but I feel like it's pretty like unspoken. What's it called? Yeah, and it's just it's contagious. Like, if one player goes onto the field and they say so what, and they're playing all out no matter who it is, it's going to be contagious. So I think it translates pretty well to the game with Team Canada too.
That's so cool. I want to keep the theme, but I want to transition into something else that I don't know. I know people know this about you, but maybe not have gone super into it. But you just basically, if I could think of one thing that's coming out of what you're talking about, is that you're a competitor, you're a fighter, you aren't going to take no for an answer. You want to win.
Very stubborn. Yeah.
In a good way. There's good stubborn, there's not so good stubborn, right? So so let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you've had to deal with that is very hard to relate with, and that dealing with some health things. You were born with diabetes, correct?
Yeah, I was diagnosed when I was 9.
Wow. How has that been something that has impacted your life and maybe connected to your nature, your competitive nature? Do you think that there's a connection?
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm a perfect type 1 diabetic, because I'm not, and it's something I deal with on the daily. But I think growing up, when I was 9. And it's super weird because my sister also has it, my older sister, not
Okay.
my younger sister. So it is hereditary. So it makes sense that one of my sisters is, but to
Okay.
have it be your older sister, I think really helped me. I kind of knew what it was before I had it, but I don't even remember my life without it. So that's how long it's been.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it, like I said, I was not the greatest when I was growing up, and I definitely learned a lot, but I think it helped with my self-awareness
That's cool.
because obviously when your blood sugar is dropping, you're feeling some sort of way. When it's high, you feel some sort of way. Like you have to be in tune with your body because it is telling you what you need at this point.
Yeah.
So ultimately, for those of you who don't know what it is, my pancreas doesn't make insulin. So every time I eat, I have to give myself insulin. I'm on an insulin pump, but I just have to maintain my blood sugar to be at like a consistent level, because if it's not and I'm spiking too much, oh man, that really affects my athletic performance.
I
And I
bet.
really learned that growing up. But honestly, like going to college was one of the best things to happen for it because it gave me a schedule. It gave me a routine. Like
Ah,
you're working out at these hours every day. You have practice at these times like every day. So it like kind of made my body adapt to that, but also like it gave me a schedule which allowed me to kind of check things more consistently. Um yeah, I the way I look at it now, diabetes, I see it as just another thing to deal with. So a lot of people, they have injuries, they tore their ACLs and they have to do rehab, they sprain their ankle, they have to tape before a game. Like for me, that's just like that's my type of injury and
yeah.
I just have to deal with it. There's no choice. Like I literally would die if I didn't take care of myself. So I think at this point it's just seeing it as something I have to take care of. And yeah, I never want to be identified as the diabetic. So I actually, funny story, I didn't tell anybody when I was getting recruited. I didn't tell Coach Alistair. I didn't tell like anybody until I got on campus. And I was like, hey, athletic trainer, here's my insulin pump. Like, I'm diabetic.
Surprise.
I know, right? It's kind of sad, but I didn't want to be seen as less than, you know,
That's
because a kid
amazing.
with, yeah, a kid with diabetes, like, it sucks. I'm not like, it's not something you want to be identified with. And you know, I'm a good athlete regardless of me having this disease or not having this disease. So I'd never wanted to be identified as that. So, but like I said, the mentality I have with it is just, it's another thing to take care of. It's not a choice. So I just got to do it. And when I do it correctly, I'm just as capable of doing something as someone else.
Yeah, and that's honestly kind of what I was going to say after is that you could have easily used it as an excuse. You could have easily
Mm-hmm.
said, why me? You know, I'm sure maybe there were times, especially when you're
Oh
young,
yeah, there are a lot of times where I was
right?
thinking that.
You're like, I
Yeah,
don't want to deal with this. It seems like something grown-ups need to deal with or
yeah.
whatever. But um just it you have what you have. Just like you say, you
Mm-hmm.
play the cards you're dealt, right? You have what you
Yeah.
have, and it's up to you to decide what you do with it. And I think what's cool about you being diabetic and being a future Olympian is that you can show all the other people, all the other kids who might have just found out that they have it too, that that doesn't mean anything when it comes to what you can accomplish.
Yeah. And I think one of the most special things is I didn't really want our like our SID doing anything about it in college, like
Mhm.
tweets or anything. But then senior year, I was like, you know what, I have this platform, I'm gonna use it. So I told them like, feel free to say whatever you want, connect with whoever you want about it.
Yeah.
And I actually had this like Blue Cross Blue Shield like 4 minute clip kind of put together about it. And when that was put out, I had so many people reach out to me and just say like, and not even the kids, it was their parents, and they
Wow.
said, hey, like just letting you know, I just got goosebumps,
Me too,
just letting
dude.
you know, yeah, oh my gosh, just letting you know, like I googled athletes with diabetes and this came up, and like I showed it to my child and it's given them so much like motivation and inspiration because they didn't have anyone. Like I had my sister growing up, luckily, but a lot of people don't have that. So they reach out to me, and when I get those messages, it like honestly makes my entire day, like week, whatever, it just makes it worth it just to be some like an advocate and just showing people that it can be done no matter what. So I think that's like the biggest positive I can find from it. for sure.
Absolutely. That's such a silver lining because yeah, if you didn't have your older sister dealing with it, you would have had to find out so much on your own, and maybe you wouldn't have known the right questions to ask or
Totally.
anything. So you're becoming somebody else's older sister in that, regard. So I just think that's so cool because you very, very easily going up and going through college and stuff could have used it as an excuse, but it now maybe will make that kid who's trying to go play, college, anything, not feel like they need to not mention it to the coaches because, you didn't mention it because you thought it could hinder how they felt about you as an athlete, and you could change the way that people receive that information. So I think that's so cool. Now in 2018, you had a real scare. I mean, you want to just go ahead and start I mean, everybody, obviously, you let people know what happened, but go ahead. I was saying, what happened?
Yeah, so in 2018, long story short, was in a 10-day coma. I will get to that story in a second, but I came out of this coma not being able to walk, not being able to, I remember the first day I couldn't really see properly, and then said, so what, and got back to the gym, I think about a month and a half later. So I ultimately was playing, I think I had just seen you actually. Were you with Scrapyard that year?
Yeah,
2018. Yeah, so we were at Irvine that year for the World Cup. And from there we got to Canada Cup, so the tournament that happens every year, and started feeling sick, kind of grossly sick. My back kind of hurt, and it's weird because diabetes kind of wraps up into this. So that week my pump broke, so my blood sugars were, like I said, spiking, and when your blood sugars are really high, you're more prone to getting sick because your immune system is completely shocked. So and to this day, we don't know where I got sick. We don't know what it was from. It could have been from, because we had just been in Japan, California, and BC all within 12, 13 days. Wow. So didn't know where I got it, which to me to this day is still so crazy. You can't just pinpoint it, but started feeling sick. And at that point, I thought it was because it was my diabetes, because my blood sugar was high. And when your blood sugar is high, it's the grossest feeling in the world. I wouldn't want to wish it upon anybody. Yeah. So I was just oh, it's my blood sugar. It's fine. It's nothing. And then my back started hurting, which with pain, I don't ever say anything unless it's really, really bad, because so what? I don't care. I'll be fine kind of thing. And so I went to my trainer and was something is not right. I'm not okay. And we took my fever, or my temperature. I had a fever of 40 Celsius. So I think that was one, I don't know, it was above 100. Wow. So it was crazy, crazy high for 2 days straight. And she was like, you know what, if it's not better by tomorrow, we're going to go to the hospital. And so woke up the night before we went to the hospital, I was up all night, throwing up, not a pretty bathroom sight, and just trying to stand in the shower to cool down because I was so hot. But then I would go to bed and have these cold shivers. So something is clearly very wrong here. Yeah. So we went to the hospital. I remember checking in, getting my bracelet, and that's all I remember.
Wow.
So I remember things through people's stories and stuff, but I physically just I'm very spotty. It's weird because it's almost been 2 years now, and I'll have a memory just pop up like that. So wow. I got diagnosed with Legionnaire's disease, which is a disease that old people usually get. It's a severe form of pneumonia. So ultimately my lungs were so infected that I couldn't breathe. Initially, this is the craziest part, and I didn't know this until my dad told me pretty recently, but apparently they the hospital that I first got to were going to send me home because it was just a bladder infection. And so apparently I was no, I'm staying, something's wrong. And I don't remember me being stubborn. We already discussed this. Yeah, I apparently was like, nope, screw that. I'm staying. Like, something is wrong. And so that night, I actually got into a huge coughing attack and they had to put me in a coma because I couldn't breathe. So, and I actually have a scar on my neck right here.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
actually not that bad anymore. It used to be pretty bad. And that's from the ECMO machine, it's called. So that's the machine that blood goes out of my body through, I have a scar on my leg too, out of my leg into this machine that oxygenates your blood because my lungs aren't working, and then back into my neck.
Whoa.
So I was on full on life support. I was given a 3% chance to live because at that point they didn't know what was wrong with me. So when you don't know what's wrong, you don't know how to fix it, right? At that point, they thought it was a bladder infection, and it was not a bladder infection.
Oh.
So got all these like CAT scans, x-rays, and they figured out that my lungs were super infected. They put me on antibiotics, life support, 10 days. They started taking me off my medication. I came to, like, obviously super out of it. My parents and my sisters like didn't bring my phone for like 2 or 3 days or computer because they don't want me like texting something.
Right.
I actually texted them a message, and it was something about, can you bring me a change of clothes, I have an interview. And like I'm laying in a hospital bed, like not like half alive at this point, like what? And they're like, okay, she's going crazy. So just like things that medication can do to you is like absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And I actually want to start writing my thoughts and my memories down because it's like some of them are so wild, and I don't want to forget them because obviously it's a huge point in my life that was pretty drastic, and I think it would be good just to have that stuff written down just for the story, because ultimately now, like, I talk about it like it didn't even happen, and I almost died. Like, it's quite crazy.
Literally almost died.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm here, I'm healthy, and I'm training for the Olympics, but yeah, you can't forget that happened, so yeah.
I don't think anybody who's close to you will forget that happened. You know what I mean? Like, I remember because I remember I had just seen you, and I remember thinking it had been maybe a week since I had heard from you, and we don't talk every day. Like, we don't talk like all the time, but I remember thinking, I haven't heard from her, and I'm just gonna, like, what's up, girl? Like, how you doing?
Yeah.
And I didn't hear from you for probably a week after that. You're like, hey, sorry, like I was in a coma. So I'm like, oh, okay.
Hey, sorry.
Like, just hit me up later then, I guess.
I think I said that to like a lot of people.
That is exactly like what you would just be like, sorry, couldn't talk, was in a coma. What's up? Like, what else do you say?
I don't know.
What do you think, if you could just pick one big main thing, how do you feel like your life has changed since going through that as a person and as an athlete?
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people expected to have this like huge life altering moment. And to be honest, I didn't. I think I didn't until like a year after. So I think I put my blinders on and was like, I'm still playing, like I'm still going to be on the field. So I didn't really think anything of it.
Yeah.
Ended up coming back a year later and had like one of the best seasons I have had on the national team. And like the year anniversary of it, because all like your memories pop up on your phone and stuff, I was like, oh, like I almost died. Like I think that's kind of when it set in, and it just makes me really grateful for my life and my health, and especially with what's going on now, it makes me a little concerned, honestly, but it just makes you be extra careful in times like this. Being diabetic, I am more prone, and I think it just makes me more safe, or makes me be more safe. And then just super grateful for my health, and it makes you take a step back and realize like, whoa, I do have it good. I am alive and I'm well. That's all I need to say.
Right. And I think what's actually really cool about the fact that you feel like there wasn't a super life alter, like it wasn't like clarity all of a sudden, I think what's cool about that, and I even think about that I knew you before and I know you after, is that you're the same person, which I think what's cool is that means that you were already living life very you know, gratefully. You know, you were always,
Thanks.
yeah, I think I think that's something, there's something to be said about the fact that you went through something so crazy and it almost solidified who you were as a person even more, because you're grateful, you know, you're self-aware, you're conscious of things around you. And I think that that's such a cool thing to say, you know. I don't think much changed. Obviously, I almost died and then I lived. I slept for about 10 days, but
Yeah, it was a good long nap.
right. So I think that that's really cool.
Thanks.
I wish that you didn't have to go through that in order to really.
I think it was worse on like my friends and my teammates because
Yeah,
they're at Worlds trying to compete for a medal at Worlds and
yeah,
trying to compete for an Olympic berth, and they were getting like they're having meetings I guess every day about updates, and like they didn't know if I was dead or alive. Like imagine that.
I,
So
I,
I think
I can't
yeah,
imagine that.
exactly. So I think if anyone were to have some sort of something from it, it would be my teammates, my family, my, you know, the people it affected when I wasn't able to be here
Right,
conscious.
right, because they were going through it while you were unaware. But
Totally.
I can imagine that being something so huge for a team too, to bring them
Hmm.
closer together. And
Hmm.
then even getting you back after they had gone through that, I can only imagine it escalated, you know, your camaraderie to another level.
Totally. I think yeah, one of the coolest moments was we had training camp in December that year or January, and I don't think anyone was really expecting me, like no one had any expectations. They just
Right.
knew that I was going, and they knew that I had been working out, and it we all had there was a meeting, and you know Coach Smith addressed it, and it was just like a just emotional
Oh,
waterfall. So
oh,
it was cool to just to hear stories of them and their like coming togetherness at Worlds, and you know ultimately they did really well. They medaled. I
yeah.
think yeah. So I think to the medal, but I think I was gonna make another comment, but no, because we had medals before that. So, but yeah, I think it's sad to have a team connect over something like that, but also it's pretty cool.
Right. Like silver lining in every aspect.
Totally.
So to that was a great, I think, wrap up of the softball conversation, but I did have one more topic I wanted to talk about. And that
Hmm.
was just, you and I have talked so much over the last at least year, about, just like I said, I feel like you're a conscious person, but just about like the environment, about kind of stuff that we can do as one person, to maybe help the world, you know. What do you think it is that really draws you towards that kind of thing?
Oh, that's a good question.
You
I
do.
don't I don't think I've ever thought of what. I
Hmm.
think growing I grew up in BC, so I think BC is a pretty, I don't want to say like hippie
Okay.
province, but we're very like nature driven, outdoorsy people.
Yeah.
We enjoy our time outside. We enjoy the environment. Like it's just like a thing. So I think growing up here really made me passionate about it. But I think you know, I think with anything we have choices. We can make a choice of being like negatively affecting something or positively. There's no negative in life, um, or no neutral in life. Sorry. And
Yeah.
I think that was a concept I learned in a book called The Energy Bus, which is pretty like a pretty common read from teens.
Okay.
But if you haven't read it, I suggest it.
Yeah.
It's good with perspective and stuff. So definitely suggest that book. But yeah, there's no neutral in life. So I think with anything you're given a choice. So I think the world itself is all something we have in common.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people take it for granted. Like it's not something you think about per se. Like you're here living life, you're enjoying it, you're making all these they're doing all these fun things and whatnot, but you're not like consciously thinking like, how is this choice affecting my future self or my future children or whoever, right?
Right.
It's I feel like a lot of people don't make that conscious decision. So I think just like telling other people about it is huge. And
Yeah.
it's common for me, and I feel like California is the same way. Like
Yeah.
everyone's very knowledgeable. Like we don't use plastic bags anymore here.
Right.
We it's just like a thing. So just getting more people on board with that kind of attitude about everything you do has some sort of effect on the future. So you want it to be positive. So I think that goes back to like the whole straw movement. Like it's not
Right.
that hard to drink iced coffee without a straw.
Right.
You don't have to drink it with a straw. I'm telling you right now, like it's not going to change your entire day. It's not going to make you sad, right? So it's
Right.
just like little things, like it's so easy to make little decisions like that. So
Yeah.
like the straws, plastic bags, like just use a reusable bag. Water bottles, just fill
Right.
it up. Like it's not hard. And I feel like once people just start seeing how one choice can really affect the future is something to get on board about. I know you feel pretty similarly with this
Yeah.
stuff. Like we're both pretty passionate about it. So, like I said, it's just the visibility and the knowledge of it, and just the knowledge of what it's doing.
Right.
And I think I've done not research, but I've followed a few companies for a little bit, and it's really cool to see that the work they're doing. I
Yeah.
know like, when I'm done with softball, I really want to try to do like a for ocean like
Yeah.
event. Like I want to work in these tropical countries that they're going to and just cleaning up the ocean. Like it's so cool for
Yeah.
me, at least. I think it's so
Yeah.
cool that they're doing things like that, and it affects everybody. So I really wish people jumped on board faster.
Yeah.
Um, it's quite sad to see like
The
something
things.
as little as a straw. Like I don't know why
Yeah.
it bothers me so much, but
I know.
it's so easy to not use it.
Right.
And just like for me, I'm just trying to limit my plastic usage.
Hmm.
Um, animal products. I'm not like vegetarian or vegan or anything, but I know that it plays a huge role in carbon emissions. So I actually like choose almond milk now. It's
Yeah.
just like there's little choices like that. And I actually want to hear your opinion too, because I think it's super important to have conversations about it. So
Yeah.
what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think what's cool is that the way that you're talking about this is the way that you've been talking about everything else, and that you just, you're making the decision, you're making the choice, and you're,
Mm-hmm.
putting your best foot forward and making the most. And especially right now, look at what's happened. We're all staying home and the world is breathing, where
It
we're all,
sounds so bad to say out loud, but like, yeah, the world is healing itself because we're not doing anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
I live very close to Los Angeles and it's very smoggy because of all the,
Yeah.
you see pictures, it's famous for our freeways here
Mm-hmm.
being just clogged, and we have clear skies, so it's really cool to see, also really sad to see that
Mm-hmm.
this is what it takes to kind of have a good effect on the environment. But I think for me it's just if I can do something, if I can change like I've been vegetarian for 6 months now, and
Mm-hmm.
if I can make a change that I've been eating meat for almost 30 years of my life, right? And
Mm-hmm.
if I can make a change like that, I honestly, I feel like of all the things to make a change, that's would be the hardest thing is
Yeah.
changing completely, how you eat, what you're used to.
Mm-hmm.
I had a interesting time when I first, because chicken, rice, and veggies. That, I mean, how many times do we eat
Go
meals?
to. Totally.
Yeah, especially as athletes. um and now it's like rice and veggies, isn't there something missing? Like, shouldn't I be eating something else? But it has made me feel fulfilled in that aspect, because I had all this passion and I didn't know where to place it. And the first day that I didn't eat meat, I thought, okay, I found it, I found where to put it. um
Mm-hmm.
and it's been fun because a lot of people ask questions, and I think that, like you said, it's just talking about it and
Mm-hmm.
getting people to understand things. I think after this, a lot of people are going to understand it more,
Totally.
which
The
I think
like why behind it. Totally.
exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
going through something as bad as what we're going through right now with the coronavirus, if we can look for a silver lining, it's, how much are we going to learn from this? Everything is going to be different from now on, I feel like, for the most
Yeah.
part. So yeah, I have so much fun talking to you about it, because you give me
We're
new
on the
ideas,
same page about it.
right? Yeah, and
Yeah.
just bouncing ideas back and forth, or saying even, oh, hey, I did this today and I felt really good about it. I
Yeah.
think that's something that, since we've been friends since 2017, feels like
Mm-hmm.
longer. Um, I've learned a
Yeah,
lot.
throwback to when you threw or hit that home run off me.
Oh yeah,
So it's probably in 2013.
We weren't friends yet. But just learning about that good with good brings more good, you know, that they're
Totally.
and I feel like I, you know, try my best to keep that going, whatever it is, and hopefully it, because you've, you know, made that impression on me, and I hope to make that impression on, you know what I mean, just kind of like a chain reaction of just when you when you're doing good with good, instead of like, oh well, if you you know, if you said, yeah, you had a, you know, oat milk latte, be like, why wouldn't you have cow's milk, you know? That doesn't do anybody any good.
I know, right?
And what does it matter, really?
I think it's like taking the negative connotation with that. Like, who cares if someone wants an almond milk or an oat milk latte? Yeah, call them bougie, call them whatever you want. But at the end of the day, they're helping the environment more than you and your cow's milk latte. So who's the real bad person now?
Yeah, thanks for judging me. But no, I think it's cool the more we learn, and that's something that I feel like even through playing softball is the more you learn, the better you're gonna be. So
Totally.
in life and everything, as long as you're learning. And speaking of learning, you and I are Whoop sisters now.
Yeah.
We're getting our strain on the Whoop. Well, I read
feel like it's becoming more well known. I'm getting really excited about it.
I actually
at first I couldn't get on board, not gonna lie, because a lot of my teammates have it. Yeah, a lot of my teammates have it for recovery purposes.
Right.
For those of people who don't know what it is, it tracks your sleep, heart rate variability, heart rate, all the good stuff, and it tells you how well you recover. For me, I was like, well, even if I'm not recovered, I'm not gonna not work out that day, right? But then I was like, okay, let's get on board. I bought in, and then it's actually really cool to see like what things affect your recovery, how much like water plays a huge deal in my recovery. So I've like really increased my water intake. But yeah, at first I was just like, that's a hoax, like they're just trying to get my money, but it's actually played a huge role in my recovery.
And I made a huge mistake of joining a CrossFit community on the like teams, and the top people, their strain is like 19.7 today or 20.1. I'm like, I probably am gonna leave this group now, because what is the highest? Is like 21, right?
It's like technically it's out of 21, but 20.5 is like I have yet to go over 20.5. But this is where I'm like, can you get 21? Because I was at a 20.5 at like 6 p.m. one day after like it was a softball full day. Softball gets me like really tired for some reason, and you don't think you're doing much. But then I had to do like tempo runs and then an additional like workout that day, and I was like, I'm already at 20.5 and it didn't go up. So I'm like, okay, what's happening here? Yeah, so I definitely want to look more into that, but that was obviously a really long time ago because we haven't been able to do softball. Yeah.
Well, this has been such a great just variety of conversation, and I'm so happy that you're healthy, and especially now, you know, like you said, you're higher risk, but just that you're doing what it takes to be safe, and you know, getting to work on your mentality and all those things too that we don't sometimes we set aside when we're working out physically. It's nice to sit and be like, okay, let me think about the things that I need to think about. So thanks for taking the time to talk to me, and
thanks for having me.
I hope I get to see you soon, you know.
Yeah, I know. We were supposed to see each other. We're supposed to do this in person.
I know. I just was so excited. I'm gonna have my bag all packed with my microphones and stuff, and then here we are. But yeah, well, thank you for joining me and talking about all these different things. And yeah, I hope I see you in August, which is about 4 months.
Yeah, I hope so too. Fingers crossed, friend.
All right, my friend. Bye.